You pay them.
Madam President, at 6 p.m.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. All right, let's call the meeting of the City of Tonawanda Council to order. If you could please call the roll. Oh, where's Carl? Hang on a second. He's with the boat? He's on the boat? Oh, yeah. Hey, Chief.
Hey, Chief.
Of course. I'm just looking for Carl. Oh, Carl? Okay, let's call the meeting of the City of Tonawanda Council to order. Can you please?
The former Buffalo Fire.
Bolanich,
Here.
Nocera,
Here.
Rautenstrau,
Here.
Mylum,
Here.
Cook.
Here, all right, so we're in the caucus room, so I hope the sound and everything's okay. Thank you to Mr. Roundstrow for getting this set up for us. But Jim, if at any point, we're mumbled or something, just let us know, okay?
Nope, you can hear you perfectly.
Perfect, okay. So let's go through the agenda just to let everybody know. Associate Chaplain Tim Newman will lead us in prayer. We'll also have a moment of silence in memory of Mayor Ron Pelosi. The mayor will be issuing a proclamation to Squires Taproom for 27 years of service. And then we'll go through the agenda. On the minutes. Who'd like them? Mr. Milam. All right, the next resolution, did anyone have any questions about that? That's pertaining to the swing bridge and the 50-50 grant. We had received that from Jason. Next is 150,000. Any questions on that?
So it's actually a overlook, looking at the swing bridge instead of the actual work on the swing bridge itself inside the middle of the canal?
No.
Well, I thought it was the work around the swing.
Yeah.
I thought it was the work on the swing bridge.
To create a scenic overlook along the river.
Oh, okay, so
That's what you're saying. So the swing bridge is in the middle of the canal.
yes,
And then the overlook is gonna be on the shore looking at it.
But it's
but at one point we talked about trying to beautify that.
Well,
Is
that was-
part of the landscaping, is that?
That was part of the LWRP, when they
Right.
had different plans in the piece. At one point, it was discussed that that was going to be a kayak launch, or utilize that area a little better. I don't think the residents in that area are crazy about a kayak launch, and people, there's no parking and it congests the area. But I think it did incorporate a possibility of an outlook as well. With that too, I think it helps to fix that area. That's been an area we've been struggling with some erosion that's working its way pretty darn close to the path there too. So I'd love to see this acted on as soon as possible before that gets even worse.
Well, this part of the grant only talks about topsoil mulch, trees, shrubs, lighting, excavation, which structural soil, ready rock,
Short of the,
Which I think incorporates that area into it.
composite decking, decking
Repairs
with
it.
subframe. So that, yeah. You want to do council on that?
Sure.
I'm gonna apologize here. Exactly. Where is this? Is this the one over by the homes here? Is that further down?
Behind Niagara Shore.
Okay.
It's kind of where you come in
Okay.
behind Tops and we catch on there before it goes around the path to like Billigan's
Thank you.
or Chimera's now.
Got it. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, then next is a resolution appointing Amanda Miller to sub-registrar of vital statistics.
Who is Amanda Miller?
Now, Jim, she's replacing,
Is that the new?
Uh,
yes,
Jody Wenke went down to replace Judy Simon when she retired from our office, so that caused the vacancy in our office.
you want to do council on that?
Sure.
Okay, I think we're gonna put an end to the signs here. Any questions on this? Would like it.
Should we do council?
I'm fine
This
with
has
it.
been
No.
such a,
I don't want any part of it.
Just- This is,
come on, this has been such a,
this is a blister on my foot.
Open for suggestions.
Questions, comments?
We all have comments. I think it's once again, like we said in the past, it's just like we have to legislate common sense.
It's a lease of 2 years.
It certainly is, but
You can't go
It's-
further tonight. If
it's-
you go further than tonight, all the not-for-profits, the signs are coming up and come down. I'm just saying.
I don't disagree. I see the frustration around it. But I think something needs to be in place. If we don't do anything, it goes there, it prevents any not-for-profits, put up signs. It does add an extra loophole, but it's made it a little easier with the form that's filled out with the mayor's office. My only concern is, and I'll take a legal consult on this, is just the way this is worded. It seems that we can allow if the mayor denies, but it doesn't specifically say that we can vice versa, allow a deny or.
That's correct. The way it's written, the council is only an appeal body, doesn't have original jurisdiction.
Gotcha. Is that norm? I mean, I'd like to have
Well,
one way or the other. I mean, you got a rogue mayor that's, throwing everything out there and letting everybody put up a sign and.
yeah, well,
We don't-
that make people do it both ways, and they're gonna keep trying until they get the answer they want. And basically signs and use of city property is a day-to-day operation.
Mhm.
So we figured it should be with the mayor. And only in the event the mayor becomes unreasonable in denying permission to put signs on city property for no legitimate reason, I guess, you can appeal to the council and say, look, he's denying it just because he can.
Right.
There's not a reason behind it, and then the council could override. But we didn't make it either way. You can apply to the mayor or the council if you know, you don't get what you like from the council, you apply to the mayor. If you don't get like from the mayor, you apply to the council.
And we don't get to
It's more of a
see the
day-to-day
application.
operation, so we just,
Well, we can see it. We can see the application.
Yeah,
Why can't
It
we?
isn't brought to our attention.
I sure
personally.
No.
don't want an email every day about what sign.
Is
Oh,
it
no, I don't
automatically
either.
approved? Just
No,
because
the
they put,
mayor,
they fill out the form, it's automatically approved by
No, they
the
don't
mayor.
fill it out, they do call it into the phone. My secretary takes the, paperwork, hand it to me, if it's something that we done, and we're doing it, we can deal with basis, sign it, give it to Bill, in Bill's box, he puts them up on a daily basis.
Would you have a while to say, I mean, to do the due diligence, say, okay, this is somebody that's not taken down their signs in the past, or
If they
if you
don't-
fill it out and give it to the chief and Chief Strasburg says, hey, no, wait, we don't want to let them do this. So you can come back and deny it.
the mayor has the provisions to set reasonable rules and restrictions, type of sign that we don't want flashing signs that distract drivers.
Sure.
We don't want 4x8 billboards that are blocking people's view, pulling out of their driveways. I mean, the mayor has the discretion. And the location, we may not want them all over the city. So.
Sure.
The mayor has the authority to set some restrictions. It's just not an automatic approval in anywhere you want.
and Mayor, you reviewed this with the chief?
Right.
And there were no,
No,
no changes, okay.
And if something goes wrong with it or something
We can
changes,
change it.
you can spend several meetings and hours of time trying to.
Going back to the chicken issue again.
Put in the paper again.
We can change it.
I'd be happy to tee this up. But let's-
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it for the team here.
Thank you.
I can second it.
Let's do it.
So after all this, the consequence is still the same.
The sign gets removed,
The sign gets removed.
Sign gets removed.
like it is now.
But if it's approved, then sign stays.
You don't have, as it stands now, you don't have a path to have signs approved.
But the
And,
short history of
um,
not taking the
People
time
are
to
not
take
going to
them
know
off.
about this.
Are we limiting when they could put it up before the event and
No, people give them the opportunity, to give us a time frame, and 24 hours afterwards, they do not pull them down. then Bill, myself, we will make an intelligent decision that they'll not be allowed to do it next year.
Hillary's son.
He's on.
Okay. All right, anything else on that?
Let's just get it right.
Okay, next resolution, number 5.
So I'm
600
sorry, Madam President, so
Yes.
resolution number 4, that's Ms. Lulanich is taking it.
Correct.
Thank you.
Taking one for the team. All right, resolution 5, assigning $600,000 from the unassigned fund balance. For the purposes, 300,000 for future healthcare expenses and 300,000 for future retirement expenses. Any questions on this? Mr. Reese, you're on, right? Anything to add?
No, it's really perfunctory. It's just moves it from one unrestricted line to another unrestricted line, just kind of indicating to people that we understand that we have something we might want to, use it for later on, that we realize that our retirement and our healthcare costs are a little bit light this year, probably as a holdover from COVID. So we just wanted to take some of the unrestricted fund balance and just kind of say that we know we'll probably have an uptick that we didn't budget for. And that's just kind of saying that we're acknowledging we expect something. But it doesn't actually restrict it or move it out of unrestricted fund balance. That's still the same as it always was, so.
Okay. Any questions? Would like it.
I'll take that, Madam
Mr.
President.
Oster? Okay. Next resolution, amending the general fund operating budget per the agenda using ARPA revenue, adding capital projects to parks, capital projects DPW. This resolution is amended. I don't know what copy, but under the capital projects DPW, do you have 340,000?
At 3:30.
Okay, so this is 340,000. So everything can add up to 638.
I'm dropping weight, but I still have fat fingers, so.
I'm sorry, what was that, Mr. Reese?
I said I'm losing weight, but I still have fat fingers. I apologize for having that. So it should have been 340 off the bat. I'm not sure how it became 330.
Okay, so
And
resolution.
That's kind of what we all agreed to back in April.
Right,
And all this really does, this is the resolution that I have to send to the federal government showing that the council approved the spending of the ARPA funds. So that's what this resolution actually does.
so we're gonna make a motion to amend resolution 6 to change capital projects DPW from 330 to 340,000. I'll sponsor. Do I have a second? Okay, second by Mr. Marlon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
And Bill Reese, does this use up this year's allotment of the ARP funds or?
There's still some
Right.
left. It's not a ton, right? This is 630.
Right,
And we already spent 72 for the reval, so that leaves us with about 45 for when the department heads actually have an emergency and we need to find money for
Yeah.
an unexpected thing. And then hopefully we'll know in the next couple months whether the second allotment actually comes. And then once that comes, I'll let everyone know, and then we can kind of work on how we want to apportion that, either through capital or, that'll be the council's decision at that point.
so there's no timeline on when the second allotment will come. If-
No, I'm guessing July, August. I mean, it's about halfway through the year, about the same time it came last year, but I'm told that everyone else got theirs. The people that are bigger municipalities got theirs already this year, so we're pretty sure it's coming.
Okay.
As opposed to the alternative. So when it comes, I'll let everyone know, and then once it's here, we'll we still have 4 years to spend it, so.
So July and August of 2022, we won't have to
We'll
wait.
finally know if we got the second allotment, and then we have until 2025 or 6 to spend it.
Correct, okay.
Is this is that extra 45,000 or is this? Where, earlier we had been talking about the need perhaps, not perhaps, the need and perhaps funding that need for recreation to get some additional help for the rest of the season.
Yes.
Is that?
Yes, that's included in this,
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Do we want to do council on this?
Sure.
All right, and then food truck Thursdays. We kick off this Thursday. Mr. Mylan, any questions on it? Okay. No. All right, then the next resolution sponsored by Mr. Nocera. Do you just want to give a brief update on this?
Sure, Chief's here as well, but in the back of the fire headquarters behind where the trucks park, that is the area that's gonna be reconfigured for their use for training. There you have right now a training room with the training dummy, and then there's a room next to that that's being just used as storage. So we're going to take that bigger room and open it up a little bit with a doorway and a door outside and a window, from what we understand, according to our bids that we received in, so. It's been a long time coming just for that little reconfiguration back there, but it will open up the space. Monica was there, Mayor Dave, we took that brief tour and kind of laid it out for us and showed us where they were gonna move things around, so. It's all internal, wall moved, opened up. Kind of thing, reconfigured to that fourth bay, some more training apparatus in the moving of the exercise equipment over to that area.
It's great, much needed.
So
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, any questions on that? All right, do we have exec?
Nope.
Do you have exec for us?
I do.
Topic, personnel,
Person.
okay. How long do you need? Okay. Okay. I'll make a motion to go to executive session, personnel of particular persons.
Potential person, yes. Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lalonde, all those in favor?
I
Should we get a floor?
Yes, please.
So Jim, you're just gonna put this into the waiting room, right?
I want to put you in the waiting room and I'll be pausing and recording at this time. Who made the motion to go
You can just
executive
hear me.
again?
I
You
did.
could just turn off our mic and our camera.
I made the motion, seconded by Ms. Lalonde.
Okay, thank you.
Don't say anything yet, because we're still.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
So you're gonna have to kind of
Madam
follow
President?
along on your handout as I walk through it here on my laptop. Just a quick background. This project and this report is a result of the city's second round zombie grant, which was awarded, man, I want to say like COVID year, like March 2020 is literally when I think we were awarded this. It was a grant that I wrote with support from Eric. I wrote the first zombie grant. We won that one as well. So this is really sort of a continuation of where that project ended. So, just try to run through some updated data that we have, and some data on the housing market in the cities, sort of what we call submarkets, but are just generally neighborhoods in the city by some aggregation of census tracts. And then maybe a little bit on some next steps the city can take, which are in the report, which also in some of it's repetitive from the first report. I always try to start when I get an opportunity to speak in front of a municipality to try to hammer home how important housing is to their fiscal strength or weaknesses. And this is one of those cases where, the vast majority of your total real property parcels in this community are residential. It accounts for a very large portion of your overall funding. Allowing that to decline in quality, condition, and price has the potential to be really significantly cumbersome for the city moving forward. The challenge we have is, as someone who helped develop the local development corporation and recognizing the importance of economic development. The challenge we really have in most municipalities around Western New York, and I think generally in the US, is we tend to let the sort of invisible hand of the market sort our housing out for us. But I can tell you, from decades of studying predominantly disinvestment and decline, if you allow the invisible hand to make those decisions for you, you will not like the outcomes. They won't be pretty. And so you have to do something somewhere along the line that is proactive as it relates to your housing market. There's no other way to sort of sugarcoat it. So just run through some updated socioeconomic data that is critically important and I think necessary to understand as it relates to its impact on your housing market and your submarkets at the neighborhood level. And then we'll walk through some neighborhood level analysis and try to get ourselves to kind of grasp the geographic variance that we see in the city. The data is generally pretty good until we get to the income data, which is a struggle. We've seen the population in the city flatline, which is a good thing. So we lost literally one person from the 2010 census, which is positive. But we're, from that 40-year period from 1970 to 2010, we lost about 6,000 people. But to sort of flatline or stagnate for the last 10 years is something we're seeing countywide. It's a positive, I think. Our challenge in Tonawanda is we're an old first ring suburban community with relatively older housing stock that upper income households prefer to buy newer, bigger, and better school districts and communities where they can buy a brand new house or something. We've seen I just looked yesterday, we've seen about 6,800 new single family homes built in the last 10 years in Erie County alone. And those are in Lancaster, Orchard Park, Clarence, Aurora, Hamburg, right? So we can't compete with those communities for those types of households, and we'll talk about how maybe we can overcome that challenge. A couple interesting household trends. Population is important, but households are more important. A household equals a occupied housing unit. So for every household you have in your community, they occupy a housing unit. So that number is actually critically important to the community as a whole. And the news is actually better. We've seen an increase in the households for the first time as well. And the number's not inconsequential to 266 households. The challenge we have, and this we'll come back to this a little bit in a conversation about school quality. The vast majority of the new households that have arrived in the city of Tonawanda are what's considered non-family households. Households that generally don't have children, because if you have a child, you're considered a family household. And that also means we've had a significant decrease in family households, people with children or people who are married without children. And the challenge becomes, from our perspective as sort of all residents of the city, recognizing that the sort of move in the country is towards more households that are non-family. And we'll see in a minute, more renters. We have more renters in the city of Tonawanda. The other challenge we have in this area is we have a lot of single-headed households with no one else living there. So, we have about 1 in 3 of our households is one person living by themselves. That is a significant potential challenge moving forward as it relates to people's ability to reinvest in those housing units that they live in. The vast majority of those are for the most part, aging in place, older households. So our old neighbor Mike, guys like that lived in the house by themselves for 10, 11, or 12 years, did the best they could on limited income to keep the house in a relatively good condition, right? So we have some of these sort of borderline household challenges, but with some positivity embedded in there as well. The vacancy rate in the city's ticked down a little bit, something we should also celebrate. When you have 266 new households, you can expect the vacancy rate to decrease, assuming no additional units are added to the portfolio. As I mentioned before, we are getting older. The median age in the city of Tonawanda is among the highest of our old first ring suburban communities. It's close to 43 years old. If we go all the way back to 2010, it's 30, it's up three years essentially. I will sort of add a caveat to all this data, just so if you're paying attention to the census, we've had stories in the last couple of weeks about overcounts and undercounts and all these sorts of issues. Most of the data in this presentation and in the report is estimates, which is we use 5-year ACS estimates, so they're running tabs every year. You can get updated 5-year estimate. So they come with some level of error. They're 90. We sort of buy into them 90% of the time, right? 90% of the time we're confident the number's correct between the plus or minus. I'll give you an example of how we know that they're incorrect. My census tract in the city of Tonawanda, if you look at the educational attainment data, says there are 0 PhDs in that census tract. So we clearly know that that's not correct, right? So just take it with a grain of salt, that the data is in most cases really reliable and worthy of building public policy off of it. But there may be cases or instances where we might want to dig a little bit deeper. So, you know, everybody here has kids or knows kids that went to our school district. School enrollment is down mainly because school age children and preschool age children are decreasing in number. At the same time, 65 and older residents are increasing. Interestingly, you know, those that know me know that I was not a single campus proponent, mainly because the population projection that was put forth by the consultant for that project did it wrong. I learned population projection from one of the most renowned population geographers. That population projection did not include an analysis of the age of women and men in our community. The number one cohort of population, actually one of the only population cohorts we've seen grow in the city of Tonawanda in the last 10 years is women aged 25 to 34. So when they told us our school enrollment populations would be about 14,000 by now, all you had to do was look at the 25 to 34-year-old women cohort and go, there's no way that's possible because it's growing. And we've basically been lucky enough to stabilize school enrollment. When you see a 42% decrease in school enrollment, it's been doing this waxing and waning for a couple of years. So it goes up and it goes down, it goes up and it goes down. But generally in this band, it's 1740 to about 17. So here's where it gets a little bit challenging for the city and for us that are interested in policy, interested in land use, interested in how we raise our taxes, you know, generate tax revenue. Of all the cities that we studied, and cities, towns, and villages we studied in this housing report, Tonawanda was the only one that saw overall income decrease at the household level and at the aggregate level, which essentially means household income is down, and it's down by about, in sort of adjusting for inflation, about $4,500. Aggregate income, which is total income in your community, is down about 2 million people or $2 million. So essentially what we're saying is the total income available to households in this community is significantly lower than it was in 2010. From my perspective as a housing researcher, that has some really significant and potentially problematic impacts on people's ability to reinvest or continually reinvest in their housing. And you know, the housing violations and code stuff is in the report as well. I'm not digging into it here per se, but it's important to recognize the impact of housing and disposable income on quality and condition and price. So the last point is one that we all should be cognizant of. If we watch the housing market, we've all watched the housing market in the last 5, 6, 7 years. So in this city and in other places, relatively annually year-over-year increase in both sale prices and rents, right? It's not a foreign reality. But the challenge is also that more and more people are becoming renters. And so communities like ours that have a lot of really low price single family housing, those are the types of communities where investors and out of town owners come in and buy those singles and rent them because they have a captured audience. There's people that can't actually get a mortgage and have to be renters. And so when you have less and less people that are actually credit worthy from a lender's perspective to actually take on a mortgage, as someone ages out of their house, an investor scoops up that house and buys it and they just turn around and rent to somebody. We're the only country in the world that uses credit scores to assess your credit worthiness for a home. You can pay a $1,500 month mortgage the rest of your life and the bank still might not give you a mortgage because you might have indebted issues or, you know, foreclosure in your past or something repossessed. But we have more and more renters in the city of Tonawanda year over year. It's not an uncommon phenomenon nationally. And it shouldn't be a concern. It's only a concern in my perspective when you understand that out-of-town investors and corporate investors. So if you look at the city's tax roll, you're starting to see more and more LLCs incorporated, all these types of shadow organizations that you can't chase down, you can't cite them, you can't find them. When more and more of those people seek to come into your community and extract as much possible value and profit from it without reinvesting in your asset, you have something to think about. It's something that needs to be addressed. And we'll talk about that quickly at the end. So, you know, looking at housing costs, the threshold is 30%, a conversation we were just having in the hallway. I think I fumbled my way through it pretty well, which means poorly. Generally speaking, if a household's spending more than 30% of its monthly income on rent or mortgages, they're considered to be they're considered to be house burdens, right? Renters are increasingly more and more burdened because they are increasingly less and less sort of qualified to pay for rents because rents are outpacing wages over and over and over again. And so they are exploited and trapped in the market because they have to have shelter. So the challenge we have in Tonawanda is the percentage of renters who are spending more than 30% is over 40% now. So it's going to get close to 50 pretty soon. And I would be willing to bet it's probably 50 right now. The reality is when you have what we've seen in the last 2 years, which is explosive price appreciation in this region as a whole, everyone that buys just increases their rents on tenants. So the tenants are, despite the fact that they're not actually owners, they're subject to increases. And so I would expect that is closer to 50%. And same with owners. The owner number's actually gone down. The percent of owners that are spending more than 30% a month is down. But when you look at the decrease in household incomes and what's happened in the last 2 years in terms of total price appreciation, it's very likely that more and more people that are owners are paying more than 30%. So what does this mean for us, right, as policymakers and stakeholders? Generally, when we see declining incomes, increasing poverty, and an aging population, what essentially that tells us is there's less and less money in our economy at the household level and at the aggregate level for people to invest in routine maintenance and upgrades to their housing. And it becomes a condition where municipalities should be monitoring and tracking that data as much as they possibly can, and then respond appropriately, which we'll get to again at the end. So what you have in the city is, looking, if you were to adjust your total value of housing in the city for inflation over time, you generally see that we're extracting more and more rents out of less and less assessed, or more and more taxes out of less and less assessed value. And that's the exact opposite of what you want. You actually want to have increased assessed values across the board. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that the homeowners that are maintaining, investing in all the things that we consider to be pro-social homeownership behavior don't feel like it's time to cut and run because the guy down the street gets away with not doing that and your taxes go up because his go down, right? It's a really important equity question to sort of have. Eventually, research will tell you, I can give you a stack of research literature that says basically those people will eventually either stop maintaining their house because no one else is, or they'll just vote with their feet and they'll leave. And they'll get replaced by someone with less economic income, economic viability.
Jason, would a reassessment help balance this?
I had a long conversation with Dave Morano about reassessments and revals. And I didn't like the answer I got, which was essentially municipalities try to skew the reval equitably. So some houses stay relatively stagnant. Some houses have a little bit of appreciation. And so they try to bell curve it. I would argue that's not equitable, just not the way you should do it. If in fact that's true. But what happens is you're essentially punishing the good homeowners and the bad homeowners get, I looked at the data, there's a large portion in the last reval where houses didn't appreciate at all. And so when mine goes up and yours goes up and everybody else's goes up, our taxes go up and their taxes actually go down. And so the question becomes is if you're a typical homeowner in the city of Tonawanda and you look around, you go, that doesn't make sense to me. This isn't equitable at all. It's a code enforcement question partially, but it's also an income, another sort of question. So you have to reval. I'm firmly 100% you have to reval all the time. But when you do that, you should study the data and figure out where I did some spatial analysis on the reval. There are clusters of places in the city where the reval prices are generally lower. And that's a spatial issue. It's a block by block decline in disinvestment question. So
Do you think there's a positive effect on the increase of industrial property in the city? There's been a commercial property. There's been an increase of about $6 million in the past couple of years. With that steadily growing with a couple of projects on the horizon. Is there an argument that some of that will help offset that tax increase by decreasing the amount of taxes to the residential homeowners kind of increases some expense?
it could, but it's a lot of fuzzy math, right? So when you think about Spalding, if somebody moves into Spalding and then they get a pilot on a $25 million publicly subsidized project already, when did we get ours?
10 years
Right.
ago.
Right. When do we get our value back from investing in cleanup and then investing in giving someone less taxes than we pay?
Sure.
Right. So as much as I believe in economic development, it's highly inequitable. Right. It really is at the end of the day. So what you have to have this is the way municipalities, you guys all think this way, but the data tells us this too. For every household do you generally add to your community, the value of taxes that household pays On the dollar to the municipality has to turn up pay 135 or more in services, in service delivery. So you have to balance the non-residential component of that because they pay about 65 to 70 cents on the dollar. So you make money from that, but you'll never get it in equilibrium. It's really a hard challenge to do. So you have to do both, which is what I've said in this chamber many times for years, which is you have to find a way to support housing and economic development, because if you don't, listen, people get in their cars and drive to places that are cool. Like they go to East Aurora, they go to Canal Side, they go to Lewiston, they go to all these places. You're basically making something for out of towners to come in, which is great for your businesses, but it doesn't trickle out to your neighborhood. Okay? So that's the way you gotta kind of. So without getting way deep into the math here, because I don't feel like it. I'll be honest with you, and you don't want to hear me tell you about statistical significance and all that good stuff. Essentially, if you look at the map that is, I printed it out in color for everybody. We essentially just took the entire housing market, the 2-county housing market, and just treated it the way you know the first 3 laws of real estate, which is location, location, location. Essentially running a model that basically holds the housing unit standard and then test it against community amenities. So when you go to buy a house, you're buying 2 bundles. You're buying a house and its physical amenities, and you're buying geographic amenities. The geographic amenities have amazing impact on the value of the house. You've all probably said it yourselves. If I packed up my house and moved it to the village of Williamsville, it'd be worth twice as much money. Well, the reason for that is inherently geographic. It's the amenities, it's the school district, it's the walkability, it's all those things, right? So essentially that's what we did. And when we did that, Tonawanda comes out around the 25th percentile, which means about 75% of the housing market at the tract level is relatively stronger than the cities, right?
So Jason,
I'm gonna wrap this up real quick.
okay, because if you needed more time, we would come back here.
I can do this quickly, I think. This is like when you go camping, and you got an 8-person tent and you go to roll it up and it's like, why do I have a 4-person bag? Right? That's kind of where we are. So here's what the sort of takeaway for the city. You have 2 assets that our housing model continually says over and over again, houses prefer to buy, which is a walkable downtown and waterfront. And Brian Culpo, everybody knows Brian. Brian, when he was here working on the comp plan and working on the LWRP, said we have the best stretch of waterfront in the region. Figure out a way to amplify that and turn it into benefits for your housing. So we have the 2 amenities that are 2 of the top 3. The number 1 amenity is school quality, right? That's the challenge. It's not insurmountable, but I'll get to it. I'll skip the submarket stuff. You guys know the drill. Basically, Delawanda and the Hill are the 2 strongest markets. They have been over and over and over again, without question. Downtown, which includes parts of Creekside, Highland and Millstream are sort of in the middle. Their prices are emerging relatively quickly. And then the middle, which is our oldest neighborhoods and oldest communities, and Gastown generally are having slower price appreciation, but price appreciation nonetheless, which is positive, and relatively low sales volumes, right? So let me just sort of end with a couple things. The recommendations I think are important for the city. Mayor White is Alice, Jack, Ron. So the 5th mayor, I've said, when are you guys going to hire a planner in this town? Every community that has housing strategies, deals with housing at their neighborhood and block level, has a planner in their office. So I'll say it again for this council. I've said it for John. Hopefully I don't say it to the mayor that follows John, but I keep saying code enforcement is critically important. And I will say one thing. You have a code enforcement department that in 2019 did better code enforcement more aggressively than I saw in other communities I've done code enforcement analysis, which includes North Tonawanda and the town of Amherst. Eric went out and literally beat the backside of people in this community and cited a lot of people. You have to do that. It has to be done. It doesn't seem equitable when you feel like you're being mean, but it's inequitable for people that are pro-social and responsible homeowners. You should have a housing plan. You should track and monitor your data internally, and that is especially at the neighborhood level, understanding where variance exists. Where do we have relatively low appreciation in prices and sales and those types of issues? Code enforcement, I will say it till I'm blue in the face. It has to be equitable, efficient, always. Equity and efficiency and effective. It has to work, right? Vacant and rental registry, you should have one. You have.
Yes, their resolution.
All right, so we're walking our way. Did you address short and long-term rentals?
I'd have to pull it, but I believe so.
No.
There were some questions about it. We were gonna revisit it, right?
Oh, I thought we-
And we talked about it, but then there was some inequity problems because we're factoring in B&Bs and then how to actually
enforce some of these things.
So Jim, can you send us that resolution?
Pick up. Amherst has a fantastic one. City of Buffalo has the same one. So. And you gotta do Airbnbs for sure.
But I think it came down to, I think there was a piece of it that involved inspecting it and giving it the blessing.
Yeah, yeah,
of the City,
yeah.
but you want to avoid that
Yeah.
because then you're liable if there was
Yeah,
an
yeah.
issue. No, we never came back around and.
Yeah, I mean,
addressed that.
I have
So
some,
did it die? I mean,
No, we just never revisited.
I have some
think
best
we-
practices
we
stuff I
making
can send if you
changes.
want.
I've
No.
done signs for 9 months.
we have it. This
Yes.
was last year.
You know,
But I mean, that's an important thing to revisit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and then the zoning stuff, which is, you will see me again at some point on
I've
zoning.
already got that thing.
You've already been warned. You've been warned.
It's been
Um,
moved forward.
You've been warned by the
Mhm.
mayor and myself. Honestly, if anyone has any questions on any of this absolute insanity of analysis and depth, by all means, email me. My contact info is on there. Monica can come over for a cup of coffee and I can tell her what I think. I'm willing to meet anyone one-on-one if they want. Not a problem. Anybody in the city, I'll do it. And then last sort of plug, if you know any, I know you can't make it tomorrow, but the city's holding a affordable housing summit tomorrow morning from 9 to noon. If you have zoning and planning board members who need their annual certification and education maintenance, they can get those credits at that event. It's in West Seneca from 9 to 12. And I'm speaking there. That's the only reason I'm plugging it.
I stand corrected. So it was 2020. But the city attorney did not recommend that we implement the program. Because the law was poorly drafted. So we can revisit it. Thank you so much. All
All
right,
right, we will see you guys. Have fun.
Thank you.
I'm gonna make
I'm gonna make a motion to amend our executive session from personnel of particular persons to contract negotiations, and I just needed a second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Mylon, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Jim, did you catch that?
So we're changing it to contract negotiation.
Correct.
Seconded by who?
Dave,
Second by Mr. Mylon. And then we'll come back here after the formal. Just to go around the room.
Okay, at this time, Madam President, I'll have to turn on the Zoom in the
Correct.
courtroom.
I'll mute and turn off the camera in here in the meantime.
Okay.
You don't get distracted.
So at this time, everyone on the Zoom call, if you want, just stay on hold. We're gonna be moving into the formal session and moving into the courtroom at this time. So give us a couple minutes and we'll be starting the formal meeting.
Okay, perfect.
Jim, can you hear us?
Yep, I'm all set.
Ready to go.
Hi, please.
All right, it's 7:05. We'll call the meeting of the City of Tonawanda Council to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bolanich,
Here.
Nocera,
Here.
Raudenstrau,
Here.
Mylum,
Here.
Cook.
Here, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
Let's begin with a moment of silence for our former mayor, Ron Posey. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for this time we've had with Ron, who was a leader in our community, a veteran who fought for this great country, and a great friend to many. Give the Posey family peace and comfort during this time of grieving. The Lord of creation, maker of heaven and earth, we thank you, Lord, for your love, your blessings, and guidance upon our community. We ask you tonight, Lord, continue to shower us with those blessings. To guide our city leaders, our city employees, and our citizens in the work they do to make this a better community. We ask for your wisdom as decisions are made, policies are written, and laws are enforced, and emergencies are mediated. And our community is protected from crime. Give us wisdom and strength as we serve you by giving back to this community. May the city of Tonawanda prosper economically and socially as we demonstrate the love of God to each other. Bless this council meeting tonight, and may we glorify you in all we do. In your name we pray. Amen.
You may be seated. I'd like to turn this over to Mayor White.
Thank you. As you know, as you probably went down the street, you probably saw the Square's Tap Room out of business. We want to celebrate that. I've got a celebration of Square's Tap Room, whereas Square's Tap Room was founded in 1995 by Rick and Lisa Neuhaus, and whereas the establishment is named after Rick Neuhaus, his grandfather, Harold Squire Gordon. He was a lifelong resident of the city of Tonawanda, and whereas Harold Gordon was a World War I veteran who served in the Company K, where he acquired his nickname Squire. He was an original member of the Tonawanda American Legion Post 264 and was a saxophone player in the Legion Band. And whereas since the opening in 1995, Squire's Tap Room has emerged as a friendly neighborhood restaurant of the Tonawandas where everybody knows your name. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? And whereas Squire's offers delicious, great daily lunches, and not bad conversation either, and the dinner specials, along with award-winning soups, as well as the famous fish fries. And whereas on Saturday, June 4th, 2022, Squire's Tap Room officially closed after 27 years. Whereas now, therefore, may be resolved that I, John White, Mayor of the City of Tonawanda, do hereby proudly proclaim June 7th, 2022 as Squire's Tap Room Day. Rick, Lisa, congratulations and thank you for everything you've done for the city. It's been a great place to hide and everybody's world will see you. Here you go. Congratulations, thank you, Mayor. Lisa, congratulations.
You guys are doing great. All our customers, all our employees.
A big problem with Squire's closing. I don't know where my family and I are going to be. Thank you for coming. All right, with that said, we'll move forward with our regular session. Communications from the mayor have been ordered and filed. Communications from city officials and correspondents have also been ordered and filed. If you, yes, you can leave. You don't have to stay for the whole thing.
Thank
you,
you, Rick.
everybody.
Lisa, thank you. Thank you.
Resolution number 6 was amended where it says capital projects, DPW, add, it's 340,000. We're not going into executive session at this time. We'll now take comments by the public on the resolutions. For those that are joining us in person, please approach the microphone. For those that are joining us virtually, there is a spot for you to raise your hand. Jim, if you could just let us know if any resident who's joining us virtually wishes to address the council on the resolutions. Any comments on the resolutions? Mr. Clerk, any residents wishing to address the council on the resolutions?
Madam President, at this time, I do not show anyone in the Zoom call looking to make any comments on the resolutions.
Okay, hearing none, let's roll.
Resolution number 1 by Councilmember Mylum.
We have a second?
I'll second, Madam President.
Second by Mr. Rounstrau.
Resolved that the common council minutes from May 17, 2022 be accepted as filed.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Lalanich,
Aye.
Nocera,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 2 by the council, seconded by the council. Whereas the city of Tonawanda desires to revitalize and stabilize the shoreline of its historical swing bridge to create a scenic overlook along the Erie Barge Canal. Whereas the city of Tonawanda Common Council has endorsed an application requesting funding assistance in an amount equal to 50% of total eligible project costs throughout the Canal Grants Program offered by New York State Canal Corporation in the form of grant funding. Further, the city of Tonawanda Common Council commits to providing the balance of cash and in-kind services to match no less than 50% of the requested grant funds to complete the project within a 24-month period. Therefore, be it resolved that Mayor John White, as mayor of the city of Tonawanda, or such person's successor, is hereby authorized and directed to file an application to the New York State Canal Corporation's Canalway Grants Program for 50% matching funds in an amount not to exceed $150,000. And upon approval of said request, to enter into and execute a project agreement with the New York State Canal Corporation for such financial assistance to the city of Tonawanda, New York, for the historic Erie Barge Canal Overlook Improvement Project.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Lalanich,
Aye.
Nocera,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum.
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 3 by the council, seconded by the council.
Madam President,
Mr. Rounstrau?
can I make a motion to waive the reading of the resolutions?
So we have a motion by Mr. Rounstrau to waive resolutions 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Oh,
Second by Mrs. Lalanich. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
So resolution number 3 is by the council, seconded by the council.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Lalanich,
aye.
Nocera,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 4 by Councilmember Lalanich.
I'll second. Comments or questions? Comment, I know there's been a lot of back and forth on this. I certainly understand. I know there's been a lot of work from our mayor as well as our deputy city attorney as well as our city attorney and the council as well. I just appreciate this now finally coming to somewhat of a fruition. And if we need to tweak, we'll tweak as needed. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have a quick comment.
Mr. Nyland?
I just hope that, I think all of us, it's kind of on our duty now to make the residents aware of this. So, you know, I think,
It will be posted tomorrow. We'll put it on.
yeah, webpage, signs,
We're actually gonna
Facebook
call,
pages.
we're gonna call the ones that we know are common ones
sure.
and make phone calls, let them know, just give a call, get it set up.
Yeah, and I think that would kind of allay some more of the frustrations that certain groups would have in saying, you know, we put them up and we didn't know. So,
Anytime you can start something, it's an education process.
Absolutely.
I have no problem with it.
absolutely. That's it. Thank you.
Just
Any
a
other
comment,
comments? Mr. Nocera?
just a comment. When will we put this into, like, it's gonna start?
Takes effect 10 days after.
So that doesn't give us a lot of time to notify some nonprofit groups, some of the realtors that are constantly doing business within the city to get them at least notified of
It's
this.
a simple process, just a list of the common ones that repeatedly come undone. I'll put signs up, we communicate with them, let them know the process. They call and follow our process.
I think, you know, it's an opportunity. This is on the books. This is there. There's definitely going to be some transition. I look at it in the same way as when, you know, we offer a little bit of leeway with the parking tickets at the beginning of the year. That, you know, if you see some signs going up and people are unaware of it, you're going to know who it is. Somebody should be able to reach out to them and at least give them a leeway. I think within the next couple of months, hopefully, that'll work itself out. I'm going to assume that we're not going to come after everybody real hard on that situation.
We'll work with them.
Excellent.
Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Lulanich,
Aye.
Nocera, Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 5 by Councilmember Rautenstrau.
Do we have a second?
I'll take it, Madam President.
Second by Mr. Mylum. Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Lulanich,
Aye.
Nocera,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 6 by the council, seconded by the council.
Comments or questions? I'd like to thank our city treasurer as well as the council for their work on this. I know there's been a lot of discussions on ways that we can improve services in the city. And I think this is a much needed amendment here. Any other comments? Please, Mrs.
Madam
Lalonde?
Treasurer, When, I just want to make sure that, when can we finalize how, or is it our level that we finalize how some of this will be spent? I know we had some department heads request using some of these funds, and I think we informally support that. Do we need to formalize that support at this point, or is that something that this money exists now, they can just work with the mayor and make that happen?
So we're appropriating the funds
Mhm.
in their budget lines, and then they'll work with the mayor, the city treasurer to make sure that the work that they're doing is within that budget line.
Oh, fabulous, okay.
Any other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Lulanich,
Aye.
Nocera,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 7 by Councilmember Mylum.
I'll second. Comments or questions?
Can't wait.
These are rain or shine. Is that correct or no?
Yes,
Starting this week.
starting Thursday.
You're there.
And I believe there's 10 food trucks each
10?
week. 10.
Get out of town, that's
Oh,
cool.
no, stay in town.
Woo, come to this, come. That's
10
awesome.
food trucks. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Lulanich,
Aye.
Nocera,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook. I'm sorry, Cook.
Aye, I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 8 by Councilmember Nocera.
Do we have a second? Second by Mrs. Lalanich. Comments or questions?
I do have a comment. I think
Mr.
this is,
Mallon?
yeah, I think this is long overdue. When we took the tour, I was actually kind of astounded at what they're training in. And the condition and the space requirements that they're required to train in is needs to be expanded. So I'm happy this is going through. I would like to look forward to when we talk about the roof and that fourth bay, potentially revisiting the what was promised to them years ago with the removal of the home and expanding that area to continue to invest in their health and safety at the fire department. So I'm just happy this is going through.
Thank you, Mr. Mallon. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Lulanich,
Aye.
Nocera,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted. At this time, we'll now take comments by the public following other resolutions. For those that are joining us in person, please approach the microphone. For those that are joining us virtually, there is a spot for you to raise your hand, and the clerk will call upon you. Anyone wishing to address the council? Mr. Clerk, is there anyone wishing to address the council virtually?
Madam President, at this time, I do not show anyone on the Zoom call looking to make any comments at this time.
Okay, hearing none, Mrs. Lalanich.
Oh, Mrs. Oh, this is where I would share things. I don't,
Yes, you can.
I'm so sorry. I feel like it's my first day.
No. You're fine.
Yes, I would like to, there it is. Say that, thank you to the Tonawanda Youth Bureau. They had approximately 20 to 30 students turn out for their first youth night at Tonawanda High School last Friday. And they expect to have more plans for more, I guess, or to revisit Tonawanda Youth Days. So that was a very positive event. And look for more information to be coming throughout the summer for the family camping event in conjunction with our rec department. It's really, really cool. So just look for more cool info to come. And it is not limited. I think the literature that is preliminarily available has families of five per campsite. It is not precluding larger families. It just was a starting number. So please, if you're a larger family and you're in for it, just reach out. They can accommodate. They will work with you. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lalanich. Mr. Nocera.
Yes, just a short brief, some mentions. We lost Ron Pelosi this week, and it leaves a huge gaping hole in our city with his passing. I'd like to extend again my sympathies to the family, his friends, his coworkers throughout the years, city council that worked with Ron under him and with him while he was a council member. My conversations with Ron were wonderful, short, to the point. He didn't like to have long conversations, but he always wanted to get his point across and his message to me and try and answer some of my questions that I had along the way. I'll say more about that later. And also looking forward to the open house this Saturday at Canal Street. That should be a great event for the families to familiarize themselves with our new Canal Street configuration. And also the high school jazz
music festival that's going to be happening at the Miller Band Shell as well this Saturday. Hopefully we'll see a large attendance there for that.
Thank you, Mr.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Nocera. Mr. Rounstrau?
I'd also keep it short as well. I do just want to extend my condolences to the Pelosi family. I've only been in this a short time, and in the time that I have been here, Ron Pelosi has been kind and a respectful man to me, and shared a wealth of knowledge with me over the years. And I appreciate the opportunity to have gotten to know him, and the opportunity to have run against him in a great contest as well. It was an honor to get to know him. So my condolences to the family. He will be missed by us all. I also just want to, I know they've gone, extended congratulations to the White Houses. Thank you to Squires for being a place for us to go enjoy food with family, friends, and with the council that I got to visit there more over the past 6 years. So thank you guys as well. And just one final thing. I know they're probably sitting here watching this, but I'd like to wish my boys a happy birthday, Nelson and Thomas. Their birthdays are this week. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very nice. Congrats.
And that's all I got. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Rounstrau.
Thank you. Just echoing the thoughts of the rest of the council. I'd like to thank the Pelosi family for sharing Ron with us. He was a great guy. I'm just going to keep it at that. Good guy. For the residents of the 4th Ward, Hackett is nearing completion. I was out there driving down the other day, and it looked like they were cleaning up the curbs and kind of taking apart the excess asphalt that had gone over. So while it still is kind of an obstacle course, I look forward to that being done rather soon. I did reach out to the mayor this week about the length of the grass at the Little League site. I've gotten a couple complaints that it's now shoulder high on deer. So that's kind of how we're measuring it. And it did get to that point last year. So hopefully the property owner will be a good neighbor and mow that. I think that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mylum. Mayor?
Yeah, I had a couple things. One is, don't forget about the open house. I think the open house will be a fun day. We've got the sheriff's department coming down. Our Tonawanda Police, North Tonawanda Police have a SWAT team together. We'll be down there. We've got the sheriff's touch the horses. We're gonna have the horses down there. The police, fire, DPW, Parks and Rec. It's called Touch the Truck. Come on down, see what we meet your council president. Tell her what you think. Talk to the mayor. Tell me what you think. Meet your councilman. I think it's gonna be a fun day. I think it's about time that we get an opportunity to see where your money goes. I'm looking forward to that. And I think the youth bureau did a really nice job. I wish I could have got up there. I was very busy, unfortunately. But to bring a camp out for those kids, I think it's a fun thing. I wanted to go up there dressed as Bigfoot and run through the woods, but I think, you would never see me run anyway, so it wouldn't happen, right, Ron? Just wouldn't, okay. We do have a Jazz Fest. Jazz Fest is gonna be kind of a neat thing. I got Tonawanda, Lockport, Penn East, Penn West, all participating. It's gonna be kind of a get out of the rock and roll a little bit and let's do something. So jazz is nice. They're very good musicians. And I'm looking forward to that. So we right after our event, after 10 o'clock to 12 is our open house, and right after that at the two completely different things. And that's why we set up so close right after each other. Then after those two events at night, there's a street dance at Gateway Harbor and North Tonawanda side. So it's going to kind of make it for a fun Saturday. And in regards to Ron, let me just tell you a quick story. When I saw Ron in the hospital, I mean, we knew Ron had this in February, and Ron was in the hospital. He wasn't coming out. We knew that. And he wasn't talking really well. And he whispered to me, he said, "Come here." I bent over to Ron. You know what he said to me? He said, "I'm sorry." He said, "I'm so sorry." I said, "My God, what are you sorry for?" He said, "I'm sorry I couldn't be with you to finish this." And here he is in his concerns with cancer, and he's telling me he's sorry. You know what? Ron's been a soldier his whole life. And right to the end, Ron was a soldier. And all I want to say is, Ron Pelosi, my friend, my assistant, my hunting partner, I will miss you. your smile. I will miss your friendship and your gentle personality. May you rest in peace, my friend.
Thank you, Mayor. So last week, a staple in our community closed its doors after 27 years. And I want to send congratulations and best wishes to the Squires family. Your restaurant was an establishment that we could all visit, where the food was great and the fellowship was even better. I want to thank Rick and Lisa Neuhaus and their entire team and family for all their contributions to the city over the years. Happy birthday to Nelson and Thomas. I hope you both have a great day. I want to give a shout out to the mayor as well as Gail Cypus. They had partnered together to secure some flowers from the New York State Corrections Department. So you'll see those flowers planted relatively soon. I know pre-COVID, we had received these flowers in the past, so it's great to see this coming back. And last but certainly not least, this week has certainly been a solemn time in the city of Tonawanda. Ron Pelosi served as a councilman, a mayor, and an administrative assistant. And I remember after he was appointed, he called me up and he was just so excited to serve. You know, the mayor could have asked him to do whatever and he would have done it. And Ron and I had some great conversations, and we're all better people for knowing Ron. And the Cooks and the Pelosi's go way back to the Bedells and Warren days. And so I appreciated Ron for just being a great friend to my parents. In fact, I believe my dad even bartended at their wedding. So that's how far back they go. We're extremely thankful to Ron for his service to our country as well as our city. And he has impacted countless lives, and the ripple effect that Ron has left behind will always live on. And I just want to remind the community that funeral arrangements have been made by Roth Funeral Home with the wake tomorrow and Thursday from 3 to 7. And the funeral service will be at St. Francis at 10 a.m. on Friday. And I've read so many of the beautiful tributes to our former mayor, and I'm sure the family has as well. And I thank Ron for his friendship to my family and all of his contributions. And I just also want to make note that Ron's son is in our audience today. So thank you for taking time to join us this evening. With that, I'd like to make a motion to continue our meeting in informal session in our caucus room. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Milam. So please join us in the caucus room. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. No, I'm. Yeah.
You're a deal.
Okay,
Mr. Clerk. Okay, let's go around the room.
Can we start somewhere else so that
Sure.
I have more
Time.
time?
You got it.
It's merciful, Jesus.
All right, we'll go 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
I don't have any, I thought we were going to talk about.
Yep. Yeah, it's on my list.
Let's start there.
All right, let's start there. So tomorrow your meeting.
All right, so we're not.
Okay. And the chief is going.
We got both, police and fire to go.
Okay.
We have no footprint, we have no. I met with Jenna, council president, and we're going to want it in January. In January, and they promised us they're gonna get a footprint of, including right out Main Street, and they just did it in January. So it's kind of not surprising. So due to that, I can't know. All I have guaranteed to us is one, we're only allowed to put small rides between Seymour and Main Street. Number one. no stakes in the ground. Number two is we gave them permission to put non-for-profit tents on,
No stakes.
no stakes. And, which I think you don't want to hurt the, not-for-profit, that would be perfect for it. They weren't allowed to do that in the past, they were told. The other thing is they can't use behind the stage, behind the pavilion, anything else because it's not our property, it's actually, it's actually somebody else's crew's property. They also wanted to put a stage in, and they called me on, behind the gardens, and can't do that either. That's not our property either, the fence property. So it's before we get knocked down, and I don't want them to tell us, to dictate to us. So as I'm going with some reinforcements to say yay and nay.
It's 25,000.
So we got a semi footprint. I need more defined. We can make an intelligent decision. Everybody agree to that amount of payment? Oh, yeah. So they agree to it, and they see the North Town one, but what they have to do is the fact that if they want a business, and decide not to pay us, so we can pay. But that's been a front every year. It's not, they're not gonna continue. They are gonna continue. They did. You know what? I support it. I would want to be the mayor. Honestly, the North Town line is not going to be the mayor. You don't want to be the council, said it's done. You can let them vote for themselves. But it could be, I'm just saying, that's my theory.
So I'm not mistaken, it, again, remind me if I'm wrong, over the years, we've had a contract from them outlining these things, something in writing signed by them.
It will have that.
Right.
Again, yes.
They're just so slow coming.
Sure.
I'm saying, it's very frustrating.
Well, I mean, it's, and they're pushing it.
Now, if you go to the website, it's the same thing. They even updated the webpage. We're getting called in my office here, and we're getting called from clowns. People for the car show. Are we still coming? Is there still a parade this year? Obviously, if there's a parade, it's gonna be
It's going to be
scaled down. At least we want, but if everything's condensed, that means their income is reduced. So, that's my.
So one of the changes, sorry, Mayor, was, they originally requested, North Town requested Main Street to be closed. So they sent the request into the DOT. And the DOT approved that closure. Well, as of late last week, and what they were going to do was put the adult rides on Main Street in North Town. As of last week, North Tonawanda had said, no, we're not going to put the adult rides on Main Street, so they're going to keep Main Street open. And their process, their thought process is that they will put the adult rides on Manhattan. So North Tonawanda is still finalizing that piece of the puzzle with the Canal Fest Corporation, which I believe they will have finalized either tonight or tomorrow, because they are meeting with the North Tonawanda Council tonight. And the mayor and the chief are meeting with Canal Fest Corporation.
In regards to our biggest concern from our police, was the fact that North Town traffic. The council, you can remember,
Right.
you can't use them, right? It's not a truck.
So without closing Main Street,
So we
we,
no longer worry about that.
there's redirecting traffic
Right.
isn't a factor.
That's what I'm saying. I got the proof, the chief that strategically that we're good, no worries, therefore, I'm very confident.
There was also a concern about the 5K race even in City of Tonawanda. And that was a concern of ours back in January, and then as of our last meeting, they said no, that race is staying in North Tonawanda. I know there were some questions about the event schedule. When we had talked to Canal Fest Corporation, yes, they still intend to have a parade, but it'll be a much scaled down version of a parade. They have talked about a bike show and the car show. And those were their major events. They did want to have a movie night. But they did not receive permission from Henderson or through to put the stage up. So it sounds like that's not happening.
Is there any idea of commitments from not-for-profits that are participating? Because I'd like to.
They s-
Yeah, they're giving me.
Yes.
Okay.
They said they have 20. Now, who they are, I don't know. They didn't say a list, and it changes every minute. I mean, the fact that we're in the
Like see
literally
local
8th inning here,
not-for-profits. Yeah.
right? The fact that we're on the 8th inning on this, and typically this is finalized by February, March, is concerning. And you know, full disclosure, he did call me last week and asked if we could put the rides on the city side, to which we had all talked, and it was.
We said that a while ago.
Right.
I mean,
and
when
we-
they visited. That
Right,
was-
exactly. Exactly. So I don't know
Exactly.
what happened. But obviously, and then it was around the same time where Northtown Water said, no, we're not closing down Main Street. We're going to be utilizing Manhattan Street. Now, again, that was as of last week. The mayor did say he would, the mayor from Northtown Water did say after tonight's meeting, he will brief us on any changes. So as soon as we hear something, we'll let you know. And then Mayor, if you can just shoot us a synopsis of tomorrow night.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so that's as of what we know right now.
Fair enough.
All right. Anything else? Mike, can you give us an update on 77 Young Street?
I guess the update is that the purchaser has declined doing a survey and a legal description, so I've scheduled a meeting with the mayor, the building inspector, the engineer. Both together, surveyor, a couple other people on 14. We're gonna meet there with some paint and mark off what we're actually going to sell them. And we'll have the surveyor, like Farmer Clark there, so we'll know what to survey. And then the survey gives a legal description. So we'll be in a better position at that point.
Is it customary for the purchaser to do the survey and
Sell their.
so wire?
Yard. But
Okay.
most of the time, because we've given such a reasonable price for the property, we, in all of our city contracts, have proposed that we're likely to do installing on the purchase.
Let me rephrase that. Reasonable means we're giving a deal, our assessor was set to the 7.5, we sold it for 8. We gave us a fair market. Thank you.
Okay. It's a very valuable piece of property. That's all I can say.
And we basically gave them some zoning here. That's why I said we remember so much changes from the original. Time was in.
And we never had a survey before, even when we leased them.
Well. We pulled the lease agreement from the CR guys. And in lieu of a survey, they took a survey, a topographic survey. When someone drew with magic marker in the part that we were leasing.
Fair enough.
So just
I've given a copy of it to the mayor. I think it was, so right now, we basically divide the property that starts above the Essex Street.
No.
Runs down an unknown distance, so it's 31.9 feet, and then an unknown distance, and then an unknown distance, further to the unknown distance. And that's what we-
And at this point, does he have plans ready and it's been in front of the planning board and zoning board?
Yeah,
So once this is done, he's ready to roll.
Yes.
correct,
Excellent.
correct, so we've got the appointment on the 14th with the surveyor and all the city officials who will be on site, mark everything. So there's a door on the old consumer building, we want to make sure we don't sell the property right up to that door, so they can't get out of that building. Because from the drawing, it's right up against the building. And the magic marker drawing. But yeah, I know it's. Wasn't ideal,
Finer tip.
I really thought it would be easy because I figured, oh, I don't have anywhere, I'll just pull the lease, use the survey and the legal description of the lease. But it's not usable. It's there. So that's coming up on the 14th.
I have question is where you're at on the contracts from Green Light Network. You know, I've talked to the chief stress or Chief McNulty in regards to using the fire department of having a gated base. There was some pile of paperwork and stuff that was involved in that. I just don't know if you had a chance to review it and
We have,
give it the okay.
we're bogged down with the Spalding contracts right now.
Okay.
And I'm built out next week or so, we have preliminary form done, just making some adjustments to the preliminary form, and then we'll be in position to finish the legal descriptions and surveys. We want to at least get them signed with a lot of to be determined. We know it's 4 acres, we don't have the survey. Yeah,
You're talking about the Spalding contract.
Spalding contracts, yes.
So Christopher Guard, could you respond to his email?
I saw an email from him.
Okay, He had emailed us on 519 and 522.
I talked to him on the phone in between.
Okay. And that was 6 acres. So you're working on that contract.
We're working on all three of them on the cleaning contracts.
He should already have that.
Pardon me?
His attorney should already has the
Right.
contract.
On that contract, the search has been done and the survey has been done. So I have to meet with Mr. Dinestri and finalize the construction plan. Originally, we had everything being from once, now they want to change this. Amend that part of the contract, which will be in position, I think, close.
Okay. And then, so you're also working on innovative mechanical
Correct.
and then mainframe.
Yes.
Do we anticipate that we're gonna wrap this up in the next couple of weeks?
For the contract, yes, preliminary contract.
I had a couple things. I sent something for traffic and safety. I actually did CC everybody on it, but there were some complaints about traffic coming out of Virginia Street in Franklin, the house that had been vacant for a long time right there. Is now rebuilding it up. So it's not so much the construction people, but it's they're discovering with people living there and residing in some parking. So I've asked them to look into it. It's tough pulling out, making a left or right, and that Virginia's a empty street. And only going to Franklin. I know he was there reviewing the one that we forward over as well. Oh, the other thing for you is I sent you a couple questions in regards to the community garden. They were curious about the cameras being used in that area. And if they need a peddler's license as far as community outreach and talking to people as far as utilizing their gardens if they're hitting there. Is that, do you have a chance to make a ruling on that? Is there, can you give me an informal yes or no? She was just concerned with if they're going to door to talk to people about it, about this community-based garden, does that?
They're not selling them.
No, it would be a requested donation. So they just want to make sure they weren't violating anything.
Yeah. I don't believe it.
Just as in regards to,
Yeah, sponsored by the city and
like,
selling something.
okay, I'll relay that back. And is there any kind of special things with the camera? I mean, with all of us using Ring cameras at this point, I think if you're a business, you have to put up a sign that you're being recorded. But for home use and anything else, or being that it's a city-owned property, technically, that would be the same. They're putting up a game capture cam, is there anything?
I have
Notification. Okay. Making sure. Thanks.
I think they were gonna mention this.
They said that they would
Certain
put up
parts,
some,
like
yeah,
at night.
ideally, they don't want to block the whole area off. They don't want to eliminate the wildlife that's coming in and out. They just want to get an idea of the patterns so they can properly plant things and protect things.
We're probably not putting in people's yard for people's windows.
Gotcha.
They're just gonna monitor from the pavilion and. use it towards the-
For
that
source
right.
yards.
And just get an idea of the migration patterns of the animals.
Yeah, there's no problem.
You know, the playground committee has met a couple of times. I've had a couple talks with Lindsay. So I'm not sure if that's a question for Parks and Rec or for us, but there were some questions, some suggestions that they had about some purchases, additions that they'd like to make to the park. You know, smaller amounts. I don't know if that's something we would approve or spend on. I know maybe it's spoke to.
Mandy had to,
She is-
yeah,
You saw, I was looking for.
yeah.
In the letter she mentioned to, you know, there was not trust an agency, but funding for park improvement plans. You know, I think she said it's been kind of out there a while and not really known what it should be used for. But it might be a bill question too, is can that be used for some of the improvements that they're suggesting on playground park? I mean, if you're talking a couple $1,000s for a ball pit, for some activities for the kids to make these improvements and integrate them into the parks and the wildlife preserve, is that something she should bring up to us, bring it up to Mandy?
She can, or we can take the feedback to Monica, and Monica can
Sure.
talk to Mandy about it. That
Okay.
trust in agency, it's now called maintenance and something in maintenance.
Yeah.
They changed that name, but I don't. But I don't know
Special revenue.
what was that?
It's a special revenue account.
Yeah,
Special revenue.
so that playground, okay, let's just call it trust and agency account. I don't know when it was formed or what the benefit was for that. Could monies be used from that account?
It was originally set up as the Fall Fest back in 1995. And the idea was if they raised money in Vets Park, it was a Vets Park Improvement Fund. Over the years, we've opened that up to be a park improvement fund, and they've used it for chips, wood chips for certain playgrounds to bring those up to code. Just to make things that we already received through grant funding to make them nicer. But again, there's money there. They've raised it. People have spent, have gone to the Fall Fest to help the parks raise money specifically for making the parks more family friendly. So there's some things we can find in capital, and there's some things they might want to use the funds that they've raised through the Fall Fest. But that would be a good question to have Mandy come in and speak to the council on.
So do you just want to populate what they're interested
Yeah,
in purchasing?
I'll get an idea for, talk about a couple of things. You know, some things are things that DPW could build. But again, being shorthanded, with Parks and Rec and people, it might take longer, might make more sense to get something, even if it's for a seasonal idea. And I mean, from reading that or him explaining it, it feels like it's in the scope of what that fund is for, without coming out with additional
Right.
monies from the budget.
Right.
But I think, yeah, we can present that and have a discussion. about
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah,
So I'll get some more details and numbers from there as well.
thanks.
Think one other thing, and it stems, I talked to you as I was taking the garbage out before I was coming. You know, we had a post a while ago in regards to recycling. I know we were unable to schedule something with Sun King. We're not looking at something for another year. My understanding with the electronics is there's really no revenue to be made from it. I guess there were some that was point where you could drop off your computers and stuff at the local places, make a few bucks. But there was some profit to be made by having some of these funds, and that might go to schools.
Or went to, like, for instance, I think at one point it went to the youth board.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we did.
Organization Kiwanis.
Yeah, and it's,
They provided it.
yeah, and I know Joe's not here, but you know, I think it's been a lot of years. I think people have things that are piled up in their houses in their basements. My neighbor in particular does. You know, I know over the years, I try to get rid of them, or I try to sneak them out to those things. And nobody wants to put them back into the landfills, and they want to properly dispose of them. I'm just kind of curious, Mayor, if that's something we can maybe talk to Joe about. Would it be possible to maybe do a citywide pickup? You know, a lot of places have a big garbage day.
My big question is, I mean, a lot of people are going to raise money.
Right.
Can't we just offer it as a service to our?
Right. I mean, we have a great service with garbage collection and recycling, whereas other cities have that big stuff on a big garbage day. Maybe have like one big.
Like North Tonawanda does, where you get one free, we drop off a TV or
Sure.
something. And then the second one is there's a cost or something.
And I'm not sure what the process is, if it's something that our DPW can take it to Sun King, deliver it, or have them pick it up here. I know for my own company, I do that. At least once a year, I'm disposing of old computers, old monitors that have died. Until I get this big giant pile in my warehouse. My boss yells at me that I have to get rid of that stuff. So I usually get a hold of them and they fill a pallet or two with it.
And Sun King had, had not made any promises, but.
Sure. But I think we can negotiate something
can.
directly with them.
Yes, and
It's
they
just
said they
incurring
were
that cost.
hopeful.
But if you can do it as part of the garbage collection,
Oh, yeah,
get the word out, put it out there.
I think that would
I
be.
think there's a lot of
best.
residents. Right, I think there's a lot of residents that still have them in there, I think. A couple of the elderly neighbors have had some TVs in there that they could use some help getting out and they can at least get it to the curb, because they're not gonna be able to get it in their car and get it to recycling. Either.
Yeah, exactly.
It's-
I mean, you get it.
I have- yeah, president, rejection to you and so on.
Yeah, I just.
That's all I had on my short list.
Sarah,
I'll say that.
say that.
I'm gonna say that. That's a lot of workshop.
Okay, all right.
So we're definitely
I-
scheduling a
Yeah,
workshop.
I was gonna ground bank on that.
I am so excited about this workshop thing, because I do have topics actually for that. But I got a resident's email today. I've been like the one council person that doesn't get those. And I got one today. And I was, thank you. No, it was amazing though. And it was something that I thought I could take an action on. And it was a resident on Maldner who backyard
Mayor White.
up
did he
to,
email you?
no, but it was still on the other side. Thanks, Mayor. But it was cool. And they were very thoughtful and they're just being a good neighbor to Tall and wanted in kind. So I went on Tall's website and emailed because I didn't have a
Oh, I
phone,
can be in contact.
but I thought I would follow up with and maybe get an actual phone number
Yes,
because the
thank you,
one on the
Deborah.
website is no longer valid. But I
I'll do that.
emailed. It's just about cutting the grass because it's maybe not as tall as a deer,
Oh,
but it's like a foot high. So,
So they,
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, but it's right there. Sometimes it's based on deers.
Oh.
Towers across the board.
I think you want to create so now,
oh,
so now the trees that way there, so.
I'll actually take care of that. They took care of it. Well, you may want to follow up with Mandy on
okay,
that issue.
okay. Didn't know that. I didn't, that,
Tall
Okay.
and Mandy, they had a conversation.
Good.
And then,
okay, that was not part of the info I received today, but this was just about grass cutting.
yes, I'll get you.
Okay. Cool. Thank you so much.
So to piggyback on that, I know we had talked about doing a workshop. Is everybody available for 14th? Tuesday, okay. We want to do 6 p.m. Sure. So why don't we float, an agenda, some agenda items? I know you have some things that you want to talk about. I'm sure we'll add Canal Fest to that list. But let's put a short agenda together, some topics we want to discuss, and then 6 o'clock works for everybody. Okay, all right, and then I just had one last thing. John, do you want to bring one garbage? Ordinance, or do you want to?
Oh, I didn't bring it up, but
So-
Yeah.
Okay. So did everybody have a chance to review the ordinance on the garbage totes?
I did.
Okay. Is everybody in agreement to proceed? Because we'll have to publish. Any questions? Everybody good?
So we're moving, this is the one talking about moving the time back.
Moving the time and increasing the fee, and the replacement fee.
The big ones. The big ones, yes, so actually next off, we're doing that, we're going to charge. What is the next one?
We get the
Well,
first
we're saying
one.
70, and so we go 75, so you're not going to go to 75 right off fire, just move it to 75, and the next one. Ready. So we're going to change it down the road, we're going to be losing money every time we're. My suggestion is going from 50 to 70, go from 50 to 75. What I'm speaking about is that at one point we were,
There was some back.
there's some discussion about not charging the rest of them. Oh,
The first one was complimented the fee if they had to fix the top or,
the bar.
yeah, if something had to be
It's a 10-year
replaced.
warranty. They actually have, we actually have a 10-year warranty for those, but we tell you by a 19 right around the way. So we don't tell them.
Now you just told them
If
there.
it breaks, if it breaks, we just go ahead, we fix it, we'll fix it, several replacement. And great, thank you very much. So we get it 10 years and.
I'd like the minutes to be reflected that Sharon's in the back going like this.
Okay.
Oh, my phone.
No, I mean, it's. Just wanted to clarify. Yeah. It's just gonna be posted within this. Very kind of ordinance. He's got enough.
I think that was kept over.
Right. And was there any additional feedback from your conversation with Joe on that topic?
No.
I think we were in good shape. I mean, just the large ones, the small ones. we
Yeah.
have a throw.
I know, there's a lot. Okay. So, Mr. Clerk, if you just pull the council that we're in agreement to publish that ordinance, and if we can get that published.
That's to increase the cost of the tote from $50 to $75,
Correct.
and also change the time that the garbage has to be put out to the curb from 6 AM. It has to be done by 5:30.
Correct.
Okay, and then there's one other change that has to be made because the current ordinance doesn't address the replacement of the totes. So I'd have to work with Mike on some type of verbiage on, because right now the garbage totes, it doesn't specifically address that the totes are covered for the first however many years or whatever.
Right. Well, we can publish the title and then we can work
Yes.
on.
Right, right, yeah, I can publish the title, I would just, so maybe we could discuss it more during the workshop next week.
Perfect.
But it would be, we'd have to add the verbiage of, after, if it's 10 years or how many years. Because the first, the only date that's referenced in there is when the totes were initially issued back in 2007.
Correct.
So,
And I think it said the first one was free.
well, you had to pay $50 for it. We did,
Free then.
there was a special,
Yeah.
Put it, yeah, we like.
Oh,
we
yeah, we put
it-
it on the tag. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
so, but we could discuss that further at the next.
It's no free.
Nothing's free. Well, maybe-
Okay, so I will go ahead and publish that. I'll just poll the council, Will Lanich.
Yes,
This is for
yes,
publishing,
absolutely.
publishing and change. No Sarah,
Aye.
Mylum,
Yes.
Brownstrau,
Yes.
Cook.
Aye.
Okay, I will go ahead and publish.
Perfect. Anything else for everyone in the room?
I'd just like to mention the basic thing about grass, because we do have a grass cutting ordinance.
We can't
Here now.
I got it, we changed it, that workshop.
But since it's actually here.
I
it's
did.
probably
Oh,
by-
no, we talked about it. We talked about it 2 years ago. Actually, Sean brought it up.
We have a
With the scale.
progressive scale.
We got it, right?
Yes.
Excellent.
So, yes,
Yes.
What it is we have no teeth, in other words, my grass and the other one changes too, there's 10 inches and the town is 12. You want to make 10 inches out, right? No 10 inches with the grass that will send you a letter, you don't do that, we will send you a $100 bill on your taxes and you pay for it. But if I make corner lot, or I'm a lot pretty good lot, I'm gonna have the city cut it every other week and pay only $100, it's cheaper to get the money done. So what we need to do is at a progressive scale. My suggestion is going $100 like we had there for the first one, $250 for the second one, and $500 for the third one. That'll end your people doing it. And we'll start paying for it or pay us for it. But give you an idea of that square, that triangle, whatever, behind the water treatment plant, for the condos.
That was the property that we
Yeah.
went out.
So we're charging somebody $300 to mow it, and he gets it for $100. So we're losing money every time we mow it.
Don't we charge them for the moment too, though?
Or you can charge them, but because it's not progressive. So we need to go, it's gotta be progressive. If this way, by the time you get to 500, they got it, they look at inside themselves and say, I gotta do this, cost me too much money. Because right now, the whole city looks like all the money control. Yeah, but it looks like. And I'm embarrassed, you're embarrassed, I'll be proud of you one by, so we gotta get on, and it's one way of.
And Eric's sick of hearing from me.
Yes, well, I'm some. For sure. But anyways, it's one way of doing it, so change it to 10 inches across the board and change the progressive finding from 100 to the first, 250 to the second, 500.
Any questions on it? So, Mr. Clerk, if you could just poll the council on that ordinance as well.
Okay, I don't have that section in front of me, but this is for the changing the because currently it's 12 inches.
Right, 30 to 10 inches.
Which is
Starting
unlike
at-
Erie County.
Right.
Starting at 10. So once the grass reaches the height of 10 inches, and then also having a staggered price increase,
Progressive.
progressive. So it would be 100 for the first time, 250 or 200 for the second,
250.
250 and then 500. Okay, so we're also looking to publish change in this ordinance with regards to the length of the grass at a property and when the enforcement can be started at is changing that to 10 inches and also incorporating a progressive price increase for violations. Lolanich,
Aye.
no Sarah,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum.
Aye.
Cook.
Aye, but I just want to add another thought to that. So we cut the grass 3 times, it's $500. Now, 4th time, do we increase it or is it 3 and it's 500 plus?
But we've done a project 7 times, 8 times throughout summer. So I'm hoping that this 250, we won't even go to 500. If you guys want to keep going, we'll go 8, 9.
Or
we leave it at
$500,
500, which continues season. If you start at 500 the next season.
Maybe that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I just wanted that clarified.
do that.
I agree.
Just to take advantage of something. Let them do it.
Anything else? All right, I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn in memory of Ronald Pelosi. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Nocero. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hey, everybody.
That concludes our meetings this evening. Thank you very much for joining us on the Zoom call, and we'll see you. Our next meeting is Tuesday, June 21st. Have a good night.
So John, when does the cemetery board get to sit down with the council?
It actually, Bob Sarah.
Yes.
reached out to me.
Okay, your chair just had to